have 9-week seasons in Overwatch 2, with the first hotfix patch starting in week 2, the mid-season patch in week 5, and now the late season patch at the beginning of week 7 today. And that's actually quite decent pacing with 3 patches in a season. So the real question is, are these changes today impactful? Let's find out. Orisa is one of the most dominant tanks right now, who has had her overhealth bonus reduced from 125 to 75 when using Fortify. Instead of 675 HP, she now has 625 HP. This change will also affect her Terra Surge ultimate, which also has a Fortify built into the ability, so she's a little bit less tanky. Overall, I still see Orisa being a strong tank. Fortify already does so much as an ability. Even with only 75 overhealth, you have to remember it still reduces damage by 40% and you can't be headshot in it. Then you also have to factor in the 30% damage reduction from armor once you strip away the green overhealth, which stacks with the Fortify damage reduction, which is why Orisa feels so unkillable sometimes. Think about it this way. Kiriko normally does 40 damage for a body shot kunai, right? If Orisa fortifies, you only deal 24 damage because Fortify has a 40% damage reduction. However, once you're through that green overhealth on top, you now only deal 16.8 damage against the armored portion of her health while she's under the effect of her Fortify. Now, if you factor in that trait of not being able to headshot, you now have a hero that effectively reduces 58% of all damage for almost 5 seconds. And it's on a 12-second cooldown. Then you add in that javelin spin, which means people do 0 damage to you from the front for almost 2 seconds, and then you use your ult Terra Surge, which gives you another free Fortify, and then you're also going to be pocketed by a support, and then you just keep rinse and repeating and cycling those cooldowns, so then you got an S tier tank still. This isn't enough of a nerf, so you're still gonna see Orisa running around in every lobby, which is super boring for a lot of players. It seems a ton of people miss the dive meta, and unfortunately Overwatch 2 removed their LFG system that they had in Overwatch 1, which is why today's sponsor GamerLink is the perfect place to find new friends and teammates. GamerLink is the #1 LFG app available for free on iOS and Android for both casual and competitive gamers. Queue up for arcade or run as a 5-stack in ranked. Forget Orisa comps and try coordinated Winston dive with some new friends. You can filter by region, skill, playstyle, and communication preferences for not only Overwatch 2, but for over 350 games across all major gaming platforms. Now for the anticipated Roadhog nerfs to his one-shot that people were waiting for. The chain hook impact damage has been reduced from 30 to 5, so less burst damage there, and the enemy position after being hooked has increased from 3 to 4 meters, so they're farther away from you, making the follow-up shot deal less damage consistently because of pellet spread. His scrap gun has been changed as well. The damage per pellet has been reduced from 6.6 to 6, a 10% decrease in overall DPS, but to make up for it, they're reducing the recovery time from 0.85 seconds to 0.8 seconds, which means there's less time in between each shot. It's faster attack speed so you can fire quicker. It's actually a slight buff there. His reload time has also been reduced from 2 to 1.75 seconds, another buff, and his maximum ammo has increased from 5 to 6, a third buff. Developer comments, these changes aim to reduce the frustration of dying in one shot immediately after being hooked and pulled by Roadhog. Chainhook is still a powerful utility to forcibly reposition enemy players, so it will still often lead to eliminations. Its effectiveness will now be more dependent on specific hero matchups and how the hook target is able to respond. Okay, so here are my thoughts. Blizzard is trying to shift the identity of Roadhog to be more of a brawler or a scrappy fighter, if you will, with that faster attack speed, faster reload, and a bit more ammo, so he's less reliant on that one-shot burst. So there are 3 nerfs to the one-shot, right? A net 25 damage nerf from the hook, a further target position after being hooked, which may translate to a few more missed pellets, so maybe that's like 6 to 24 less damage, this is a complete guess. And the follow-up melee of 30 damage is pretty much non-existent on any hero that has a movement or escape ability, since there's not enough time to walk forward to get close enough during the hook, and you need to also top that off with the 10% damage nerf from the pellet damage. It's pretty much impossible to one-shot a 200 HP hero at full health now, so here's a comparison. This is what it looks like at a 225 HP hero and a 250 HP hero, where you can see it's possible to one-shot them pre-patch if you walk forward before shooting and meleeing. It's still too early for me to say how effective these nerfs will be because sometimes a hook target has already taken a bit of chip damage, or you pre-fire once before hooking to get a bit of damage in and make the one shot more consistent. The fact that Roadhog now shoots faster and brawls a bit better means he's technically a bit more effective against other tanks rather than just looking to hook squishy targets, so Winston or Ball might still have a hard time playing into Roadhog. I'm actually curious to see where he ends up, but if I had to guess, he's probably still A tier. Okay, Sojourn has been a hot topic since the beginning of Season 1 in October. Another few nerfs to Railgun is upon us. This time the energy gain is no longer based on damage done by primary fire. Each primary fire hit against an enemy player now grants 5 flat energy. For primary fire SMG projectile damage has been reduced from 10 to 9, which is what it used to be actually in the previous patch. The developer comments, the energy gain adjustment will help smooth out Sojourn's average railgun charge time because it won't benefit as much from the critical damage or damage boost abilities. Hitting armor targets or other sources of damage reduction will result in higher energy gains than before. This is an interesting change. It's definitely a net nerf to Sojourn, right? She used to gain 5 energy on a regular target and a 10 energy on a headshot, 6 energy on a damage boost body shot, and 13 for a headshot, which is what made Sojourn Mercy so deadly, along with changing that rail headshot breakpoint. You still get 1 energy on deployables like turrets, so no change there. Now, with everything at a flat 5 energy, there are some certain matchups where it would be a net buff, like a fortifying Orisa, so there's a lot of them to take into consideration, and fellow creator Neandra put a spreadsheet together to show you what's been a net buff or net nerf in terms of energy gain for Sojourn. If you're Sojourn main, I'd implore you to pause and take a look at this. I've always believed that Sojourn shouldn't be able to headshot with rail. Let it deal the 130 damage at max charge, sure, and perhaps let her primary fire projectiles do a bit more, maybe at 11 damage each, to still allow her to duel enemies. She's already got super mobility with the slide, an annoying disruptor shot, and a really good ultimate, and I actually still think she'd be a great hero in that state. No more headshots. Okay, last hero on the nerf line is Kiriko, which is way overdue as she's nearly 100% pick rate in high ranked ladder. So the change is that healing Ofuda's recovery time has increased 0.85 seconds to 1 second. So for Kiriko specifically, this translates to a slower reload time before her heals refill. The developer comments, despite Kiriko's healing projectiles being slow moving and single target, her average healing output per match is higher than we'd like. We've seen players tend to get overly focused on maximizing her healing potential and only use primary fire for extended periods of time. Rather than reduce the amount of healing per projectile, which may lead to feeling locked into focusing on primary fire even more, we're increasing the recovery time before she can start firing the healing Ofuda. Increasing recovery times opens the opportunity to weave in secondary fire kunai more freely. So, my thoughts, and as someone who plays a ton of Kiriko, and I did hit top 20 on ladder mostly playing her, this nerf didn't do shit. If anything, you can see in the dev comments that they said it themselves. This opens opportunities to weave in kunais more freely. And I'm going to tell you, good Kirikos were already weaving in 1 kunai, sometimes 2, in between each healing Ofuda, although the timing was a bit tight on the 2. Now with this change, it's really easy to do 2 kunais in between each heal, and arguably 3, while still maintaining good healing output. In my opinion, the biggest problem with Kiriko right now is actually her Kitsune Rush. It's still too damn good in fight changing. Suzu is also too damn good, and her Swift Step is on such a short cooldown. She just has it all, right? High survivability, high healing output, fight-changing ultimate, and can cleanse anything. Does too much, man. If it were up to me, I'd nerf Kitsune Rush a bit more, so you could probably keep the movement speed and attack speed, but just take out that cooldown reduction you get altogether. You don't need that. And perhaps cut the distance the Fox travels by like 20%, so you don't have this giant objective covering ultimate. The fact that it still gives major attack speed and move speed is already strong enough in my opinion. And then you also want to nerf Suzu, and if you don't want to kill the entire cleansing identity of it, just slightly reduce the AoE range so not everyone can get cleansed if they're slightly spread out. Then you can probably just cut out that 50 HP healing you also get from Suzu as well. Like, why is this ability so overloaded? I could go on and on about Kiriko, but I'm going to stop there. That's the end of the late season 2 patch. Comment down below your thoughts and come to my stream at twitch.tv/KarQ, where I play Kiriko almost every day in top 500. Ciao.